Ready? Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to our Smart Families presentation tonight. We're delighted that you're all here, and we hope that this sort of sparks a movement in our community, both in the school and all of our families in our parish, for being smart families, families that use devices well and in a way that helps our children to develop to be fully alive human beings. St. Irenaeus, a father in the early church, said, "The glory of God is man fully alive." So when we are fully alive as human beings, it brings glory to God. It glorifies God. So we pray for that tonight, and we'll begin with a prayer, and then we'll do some introductions. So I invite you to join with me in prayer as we say, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God and Father, we praise you that you are the God of all creation. We praise you for all the beautiful and glorious things that you have made. And we come before you humbly, Lord, in this time and age and place, with all of the beautiful and good things that exist, as well as all of the temptations and things that lead us away from you and from glorifying you. And we ask, Lord, that you bless us tonight with wisdom and insight. Bless especially those parents who are here tonight, that they may have the tools and wisdom that they need to help their children to be human beings that are fully alive and have good soil to come to know you and to love you, that are virtuous and beautiful and good. And so we entrust this time to you, Lord God, as we pray in the words that Jesus himself taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven,
Heaven, hallowed be thy name.
thy
Thy
kingdom
kingdom
come,
come,
thy
thy will
will
be
be done,
done,
on
on
earth
earth as
as
it
it
is
is
in
in heaven.
heaven.
Give
Give
us
us this day
our
our
daily
daily
bread,
bread,
and
and
forgive
forgive
us
us of our
our trespasses,
trespasses,
as
as
we
we
forgive
forgive
those
those
who
who
trespass
trespass against
against us.
us.
And
And
lead
lead
us
us not
not
into
into temptation,
temptation,
but
but
deliver
deliver
us
us
from
from
evil.
evil. For
Amen.
thine.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Tonight, to introduce our speaker, our keynote, I'm going to invite Mary Martha Devane, our youth minister from our parish, to make that introduction. So please welcome Mary Martha.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thank you, Father Brian. Yes, my name is Mary Martha Devan. I'm the coordinator of youth ministry here at St. Joseph. We are excited to have Dr. Crystal Collier here with us this evening. As somebody that works closely with many of your kids and the youth in this community, I can very clearly see the great importance of the information that she has to share with all of you this evening. So we're excited to have her. Dr. Crystal Collier, herself a person in long recovery, is a therapist and educator who has been working with adolescents and adults suffering from mental illness, behavioral problems, and substance use disorders since 1991. Her area of expertise includes adolescent brain development, prevention programming, parent coaching, addiction, family of origin work, and training new clinicians. Dr. Collier's comprehensive prevention model, which teaches the neurodevelopment effects of risky behavior to children, teens, teachers, and parents, was selected for the 2015 Prevention and Education Commendation from the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. In 2018, she received the Torchbearer Award for her work in the field of addiction from the Texas Association of Addiction Professionals. In the same year, the Hope and Healing Center and Institute in Houston, Texas, granted Dr. Collier a research fellowship to support the completion of the Neuro Whereabouts Guide. In 2019, she received the Outstanding Research Award from the Association of Alternative Peer Groups and was acknowledged as Counselor of the Year by the Houston Counseling Association. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Crystal Collier.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's really good to see this audience so full. I am a therapist, a practicing therapist from Houston. I drove actually to Austin this morning and then over here. I feel like I'm on tour. It feels so weird. But I'm really grateful to be here with you guys tonight, and there'll be time for questions, but at the end. But please feel free to raise your hand at any time and ask a question. And we're live streaming this, so anybody who is online, greetings to you all as well. So tonight we're going to talk about the neuroscience of screens, but I'd like to first share with you what really qualifies me to give you this information. And it's not just my 1980s hairdo, but these were pictures of me when I was growing up. And by the time that last picture was taken of me there in my big Texas 1989 hairdo, that picture was taken the day that I graduated from rehab. So I started engaging in really risky behavior very, very young. And I had an overdose by the age of 18. And by the grace of God, survived it. Picked up the 1,000-pound phone that used to be attached to the wall and called my mom and asked for help. And what I'm really, really proud of, besides that my sobriety date is February 3rd, 1989, is that I still have that t shirt that says drug free body that I took that picture in. So, what I started to do was study high risk behavior as soon as I got back into college. And it was such a cool time because all of these brain studies were being published. And so, what I did was I ended up putting all of these studies, all of that information into a book. So, I started seeing very similar brain studies in all of these different high risk behavior. And I was amazed at how young kids were starting to engage in it. And so what I did is I put it into this book in infographic style because a lot of people don't read as much anymore today. So every topic is about 2 to 4 pages, and I graphed all of those high risk behavior so that you would know when do those things spike. That way you can have the conversation with your kiddos before the spike, not after. And then when you go, oh my God, I have to talk to my kid about this. Don't worry, I got your back. Like I've got a script and an easy to follow checklist for you. So there's an elementary, middle, high school chapter. I have it available in English and in Spanish. And so that's the Neuro Whereabouts Guide. A lot of this information I put into my free online prevention program that is being used across the country and now also in the UK. It's called knowyourneuro.org, and there are videos developmentally appropriate for kindergartners through 12th grade. If you are a teacher or you're working in a school or homeschool, there are handouts that are designed to allow you to use that as a lesson, and I've got a curriculum, all free. There's also a parent page with a lot of free information there as well. Now, I want to introduce you to the hero of my children's book. So this is Neuro. And I wanted to write a series of books for kids to have them fall in love with their brain and want to protect it. So in this series, you get to go on adventures with Neuro. Know Your Neuro, Adventures of a Growing Brain. Book 1 is all about brain development that I'm going to teach you here in a second. And then the rest of the books, you get to go on journeys with Neuro to learn new skills. So, what I want to do first is teach you guys how I want you to teach brain development to kids. And that is by first using Dr. Lawrence Steinberg's quote. He says that an adolescent has a well developed accelerator, but only a partly developed brake. So, the accelerator is located deep inside of your brain, and it is a very, very old fight or flight part of the brain that is called the limbic system. Everybody say limbic system. Okay, good. That part of the brain that governs our fight or flight survival response. Does anybody want to guess of how old it is when it is fully online and mature? 28? 25? Ah, you guys are thinking of the brake. The accelerator is fully online by 11 and 12 years old. Puberty, which makes a lot of sense because once we hit puberty, we need to protect ourselves in very new and different ways. And we need to break away from our family of origin. so that we can start trying on a little bit of this, a little bit of that to figure out who we are. And that's also the part of the brain that gets really, really curious. So that's our accelerator. But the brake, which is located right behind the forehead, about halfway up the skull, that's the part of the brain that slows us down, lets us make good decisions. That is not fully online till around the age of 25. So thus our fully formed accelerator and partly formed brake. What do you think? God's little joke on parents? Right? Feels that way sometimes. The next thing we need to teach our kids and know ourselves is during that first phase of brain development, from birth to about 11, 12 years old, we grow 200 billion neurons, a lot of brain cells. It's like we get this big chunk of clay, and our job is to start sculpting it into what one day will be the masterpiece of our brain that actually ends up having 100 billion cells. So we literally get rid of half of these perfectly good neurons that we just developed. But there's a really important reason. We need room in there for connectors. So I want to introduce you to a little baby brain cell. This is an infant's neuron, magnified so that we can see it. Now, you'll notice there's a cell body, a long axon, and then you guys see what looks like tree branches and tree roots. Those are called dendrites. Everybody say dendrites 3 times fast. Okay, we're going to work on y'all's enthusiasm because I want you to adopt that as your new battle cry. As a parent, as a grandparent, I want you to see those connections, those dendrites forming in your child's brain. The reason why I love this brain structure so much is because dendrites are literally the hardware of learning. Every time you learn something new or practice something, you grow new dendrites. Whoops, that reach out to other cells, making these long chains of connections. We call those neural pathways. So, what you're literally seeing is those infants' neurons growing all the way up to age 2. Isn't this a cool slide? Like it literally shows you a skill. We don't know what skill it is, but it's the hardware of that skill. Now, by the time that you're 25, every neuron in your brain will be connected to 10,000 other neurons. And that's a lot of connections, a lot of pathways that have to fit inside of your skull. So it literally squishes down in there. And that is what makes all those funky wrinkles and grooves in your brain. Babies actually have a much smoother brain, and then the more skills we grow, the wrinkles come. Now, we don't want to Botox these wrinkles, right? We want these wrinkles because that means we've got more skills growing in there. And you can see what part of the brain is thickening with those connectors by the dark color. That shows you the loss of gray matter. So you're burning away cells. They call those cells gray matter because they literally look gray. Then white matter are those little connections, those dendrites. Those are what's thickening. So we do have a prefrontal cortex, a brake, when we're young, but it's really primitive and underdeveloped, immature. But you can see by about 10, 11, 12 years old, we've got about 10 to 15% of our frontal lobe. So does anybody have middle schoolers in here? Oh, a lot of you guys do. Okay. Have they started arguing with you really irrationally yet? Okay. So here's the good news, bad news. That means their brain development is right on time. That is healthy brain development when they start to argue because abstract critical thinking starts coming online, but they only have like 10, 15% of it, right? And also another really high level skill, empathy. They only have 10 to 15% of that. And so they keep arguing irrationally, but they don't have enough empathy to know how irritating it is for you, right? So, but really normal and a healthy sign. By the time we're 16 years old, we have 45% of our adult brain. And then we give them a license to do what? Drive with half a brain. This is literally why our insurance rates are neurodevelopmentally so high that first 2 years of life. But then by the age of 20, we've got 80% online. It's still a fifth of brain development to go between 20 and 25. Now, The next thing you need to know about your prefrontal cortex is, what does it do? It does what we call executive functioning skills. That is the CEO of your brain and your body. It does all of your basic thinking, feeling, and doing skills. And here is how they grow according to those two phases. So on the left, you've got what scientists refer to as the lower level executive functioning skills, the ones that you need to get up in the morning, out the door, remembering your homework. And then on the right, what we start to see is higher level executive functioning skills that come on during that second phase of brain development. And these are the ones that we need to get up and out of our parents' house, becoming fully self supporting adults, right? You guys are like, no, my kids are going to live with me forever. Oh, no, she says. Okay, well, then we want to grow these skills. But the next thing, the most important thing that you need to know about the prefrontal cortex is that all of these skills grow based upon the brain's rule. The brain's rule is use it or. Okay, so remember, all of these skills grow based upon the brain's rule, use it or lose it. Now, let me give you an example. Anybody in here an over functioner? Little controlling, little helicopterish? Nobody's going to own that. Thank you. Some honest people back there. Okay, so let me see if I can talk you out of that. Because if you do all your problem solving and decision making for your kids, they won't grow long networks of neurons for problem solving and decision making, but they will grow long networks of neurons for dependency on you to do their problem solving and decision making for them. And so this is what I want you to do. I want you to start using brain-based parenting. And that means memorizing these skills and using them in your daily language. So let me teach you really quick how this sounds, because you can't sound like a therapist. You can't say like, nice task initiation, Johnny. They're going to laugh at you. So you want to sound like you. A good one for task initiation is, dude, you took out the trash. I didn't even have to remind you. Yes. Ooh, I like how you organized that. Show me how you did it. Wow, you paid attention to the most important thing at the right moment. That was really awesome. I really liked how you made that decision. How did you figure that out? Good solution. Wow, you showed me so much empathy today. Last week you were so upset. This week you regulated. Much better. That got some interesting giggles on that one. You got some dysregulated kids out there, huh? Okay, so you're getting my point. Use it or lose it. We want lots of dendrites, long neural pathways for these skills, especially because the brain's rule is use it or. Okay, that means your battle cry, parents. Say it with me 3 times fast. Dendrites, dendrites, dendrites. Okay, we're gonna get there. Okay. So yes, now, whoops, what we're going to do here is we are going to talk about the effects of screens. So a deep dive into a couple of the high-risk behavior that are in the book, technology overuse and video game addiction, and all of the different ways that screens is affecting our development. And so the first thing I want to introduce you to is this equation that our brain grows those neural networks when we engage in an activity for 3 or 4 hours consecutively. So this makes sense, right? If you want to get good at a sport or if you want to get good at a skill, you join a club or a group and you practice for 3 or 4 hours at a time. If you only do it for a little bit, you don't grow long networks of neurons. But this also applies to other things. If you want to get really good at playing a video game, really good at social media, do that for 3 or 4 hours at a time. What do you guys think the skill is for TikTok? That's the skill. So it's so funny. My husband will do social media at night laying in bed, and I'll be like, honey, you've got scoliosis. Come on, to get him to go. He always giggles at that. Okay, so please know, our tech is not going anywhere, but the idea here is we need to balance out our tech use with all the other things in life. So I want you to follow the brain balance rule, not just your children, but you, right? So if you engage in a video game for 3 hours consecutively. Then you get off and you go do something else with your brain for 3 hours, the brain balance brain. And here's a study that illustrates how deleterious this can be. So, this is a study that was done in 2013 in Japan. It has been replicated many times since. And what you're looking at is brain connectivity. So the slides, or excuse me, the brains with the little red dots, if you connected all the red dots, you would see the brain connectivity of a group of students who balanced out all of their activities. So they had a little bit of rec tech, a lot of academic tech, in-person time, and physical activity. So really balanced lifestyle. Then you look at the purple lines. That's a group of high school students who dropped out of high school and spend 12 or more hours a day at the internet cafe. What are they doing? Playing games. Now, I want you to notice, can you see that dense area of connection right there? That is right on top of our brain on both sides. That is the sensory and the motor cortex. That's the part of the brain that they're using for the hand-eye coordination. But look at how many networks they have into their prefrontal cortex. One neural pathway. That's it. So if we tracked their executive functioning skills, two groups, what we would see is they start off pretty even and then they get to high school, and our balanced group is going to peak in those executive functioning skills, and our gamers are not. Now remember, at the age of 25, a few things peak. How quickly you learn, that is your processing speed, how quickly you think, peaks at 25. How flexible your brain is, it's called brain plasticity. How that peaks at age 25. And then all of you who are older than 25, you know it's slowly downhill from there. It's harder to learn the older you get because those things are starting to slow down. So we want our kids' executive functioning skills to peak where they should, full potential. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through 5 areas that our screens are affecting our development. And the first one is attachment and connection. So I want you guys to think about the 4 things that make us happy in the world. And here they are. These are the neurotransmitters and chemicals that our brain and body make that allow us to feel happy, calm feelings. So when we're in healthy relationships, we get oxytocin. When we need to regulate our mood and our muscles, serotonin. When we're in pain, we get endorphins and enkephalins that soothe us. And when we need to do something good for survival, we get an increase in dopamine. So like when you haven't eaten for a few hours, your dopamine starts to plummet and you get angry, moody, and then you eat and it goes back up. It's your limbic system right there in blue that's saying, hey, good job keeping me alive. Here's your reward. Feel calm and happy. Now, dopamine takes a very specific pathway through the limbic system, literally called the reward pathway. So what happens is when your limbic system senses there's something good in your environment that's good for your survival, it increases dopamine. It says, wow, whatever this is, it's pretty good. We should remember this. And so it sends a signal back to the part of the brain that will remember that. And then the last step sends a signal to your prefrontal cortex that says, wow, this is so good for your survival. You should attach to it. Now, this is the part of the brain where we attach to things. It's the part that has mirror neurons. And so when a baby smiles, what do you automatically do? Smile. When a baby grimaces, you automatically, you mirror it. That happens because we're hardwired to connect, and that part of the brain does all that for us. And so then once you're attached to it, it sends a signal back that says, wow, whenever that thing that's good for our survival is going to be near us, we're going to give you dopamine just in anticipation of it and when that thing is around. It is exactly the same pathway that happens when we attach to our caregivers. So isn't this a great picture? The cool x-ray. And so what you're seeing, this little baby limbic system is like, dude, whenever she shows up, like I get fed, I get warm, I get like, this is so fun and cool. She's really good for my survival. So I'm going to remember this. And every time she's around, I'm going to give my brain and body some dopamine. And then I'm going to attach to her because she's really, really good for my survival. This is the same exact reward pathway that gets hijacked by risky behavior. But for the first 2 to 3 years of life, we need a lot of face to face eye contact for that pathway to be created in our brain. For us to create secure attachment, we have to look at each other in the eyes and lots of face to face interactions. And that connection can happen between us and our caregivers. But I don't know if you guys have heard of this brexting, texting while breastfeeding. Anybody heard of that one yet? I've had a lot of women come up to me after this presentation and say, oh my God, I feel so much shame. I can't tell you how many times I dropped my cell phone on my baby's head. So if that's happened to you, please know it's happened to a lot of people. But I want you to think about what's going on. So when baby's feeding and unlatches for some reason, what babies do is they try to get our eye contact to re-regulate because they're dysregulating. Okay, and once they get our eye contact and we soothe them, it's okay, they can relatch and keep feeding. Okay, now I want you to imagine, though, that baby can't get mom's gaze because there is something interfering. And it may take a fraction of a second or maybe more than that, but that little interaction that gets delayed, if that happens over and over, remember, we only have 2 to 3 years to create that bond. Those are really precious seconds that can interfere with attachment. And that's actually what pediatricians are seeing. And then, of course, as we age, there are more and more screens in our environment. And of course, these companies sell us these things thinking that it's supposed to be really developmentally okay and healthy for kids. And they don't have science that backs that up. We are seeing the effects of kids growing up in a screen-based childhood instead of a play-based, in-person, face-to-face childhood. 80% of 4-year-olds have tablets today. And you guys, please do not buy a potty trainer with an iPad on it. I will come to your house and shame you if you do that, okay? I don't do it. No, no. They need to see us being really happy and proud of them when they have success for that activity. But we also see how it affects us as an adult. So I always like to tell this story because you've ever been phubbed, right? That's somebody who won't pay attention to you because they're doing this. But I was sitting with my husband on the sofa. We're watching that zombie show, you know, we're watching it together, and I could feel him cheating on me with his phone. You know, he's like looking at it so I won't see. And I remember feeling just this primal anger. Like it was so weird. It was so mad. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, dude, I'm just checking the score. The Astros were playing. So I'm from Houston, right? So it was so funny because I was like, well, let's just go to the game. Like I feel so disconnected when that's happening. And what I see also is that this is the number one complaint for kids. Kids will tell me in therapy, my mom comes home, she gets on her computer. My dad's on his phone during dinner, and then they expect me to get off. Number one complaint. And so we also see how it affects kids and their safety. CPS has had more calls in the past 10 years because people are neglecting kids on the playground. Teachers as well on phones, and they're not seeing, and kids are getting hurt. We see that it interferes with our ability to communicate, use it or lose it, but also our ability to listen. Now, this is a study that illustrates how it affects our development of empathy. Remember, empathy is a higher level executive functioning skill. When we're little, we have sensitivities. But as we grow older, we can develop empathy, which is a higher skill. Once we have abstract reasoning, which is being able to step inside somebody else's shoes, imagine what they're thinking and feeling, even if you've never gone through that. That's empathy. Now, these researchers took a bunch of college kids who never played a video game, and they had half of them not play one, and half of them played a first person shooter game. Now, they gave each of them a new scenario every time they tested them. They had to come up with an empathic response. Now, you can see the control group, lots of activity in the frontal lobe. They are empathizing left and right, no problem. And for our control group, it pretty much stays lit up, but not for our gamers. And when the researchers asked them, what's going on? Why are you struggling? They said, well, I'm playing this first person shooter game. I'm killing people in this game. I got to dumb down that skill. That's scary. Use it or. When I read this study, I got chills because I kept thinking about how young we send kids, especially if like we're in combat. How young do kids go off sometimes to war? 18 years old when they get into the military. And then, they're shutting these skills off so that they can protect us, but then they come home and we want them to turn it right back on. It's just so scary to me. I heard somebody say we should not call them first person shooter games. We should call them murder training because it is murder simulate. It's simulating murder and training them to kill people. And it has a big effect on the brain. Now, these researchers, they had such a profound impact on the study. They were like, okay, we got to add something to this. So what they did was they had the kids stop playing for 2 weeks and then come back in. And thank goodness, their frontal lobes lit up again. But think about somebody who's been gaming for years. So I have a client that allows me to tell this story, partly because he's doing much better. But when I met him many years ago, he came to me from CPS. CPS had seen, somebody saw him shaking one of his kids, and they called and complained. And so he was mandated to come see a therapist, and he got connected to me. And when I first met him, he told me that he'd been gaming since he was 8 and that his mom used to be so happy because she always knew where he was. He was either at home or at the neighbor's house playing. He even laughed and told me that his bike got rusty because they didn't use it anymore. They played every single day and all weekend long. So he barely gets out of high school and almost drops out of college because he's playing bigger games with more people online in his dorm room all the time. And at the end of college, he meets the love of his life and has 2 beautiful boys. But then a few years later, he's about to go through a divorce. He's in a CPS case. His life is really imploding. And so he was telling me this story about how he was reading to his boys. And his boys kept asking him to read the same book over and over and over again. Now, you guys who work with kids know one of the best things you can do for kids is read the same book over and over and over again, right? There's so many amazing brain things, attachment, connection, touching, all of that happens in that moment. But all he wanted to do was go do what? Play his game. And so he was irritated, and then the kids got dysregulated, and it ended up terrible. And he said, but miss, you don't understand. My life online is so much better than my real life. Like I'm in a guild, and we go on raids and missions. And you should see my castle. It's beautiful. It's amazing. If I could live there for real, I would. So that's addiction. That is addiction to supernormal stimuli that's really changing him. Now, the second area is kind of obvious, right? We're so sedentary. We sit all the time. A study just came out last year that said 59% of our children today will be obese by the time they're 35. But we also know that if we go outside less, our immune system is less. Our immune system really suffers. We have poor nutrition, weight gain, and we're not getting enough sleep. Our young people, especially our millennials and our Gen Zs, are getting less sleep than they used to. And it's taking kids on average 3 hours longer to do their homework because they're so distracted. And so we're also seeing an interesting phenomenon, more and more diagnoses of nearsightedness. because the part of your brain that is connected to your eyes, the occipital lobe, it has less neuronal connections for seeing far because we're looking right here all the time. So we're seeing more and more myopia being diagnosed. The next area is how this is affecting our learning and motivation. So let me ask you guys, who thinks their attention span is going down? Show of hands. Okay, yes. We now have data that is causal. It is our screens that are causing our attention to go down. There was a really funny study, I thought, that started in 2012. They randomly selected people from the United States and measured their attention span. And back then it was 12 seconds long. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you try it. When you go home tonight, like everybody should time their family members, like how long you can pay attention to one thought without getting distracted. 12 seconds, pretty long. And then they redid the study in 2018 and we lost 4 seconds. What the funny part was is the researchers said that a goldfish has the attention span of 9 seconds. That was the year we all became goldfish. I don't know. How do you think they measured a goldfish's attention span? I don't know. But the reason is because we are switch tasking. We're switching from one thing to the next to the next. We are not using our brain to pay attention to long, boring stimuli that we might be like maybe reading in a book. We're watching screens and we have multiple screens. And so we're switching back and forth. And here's the effect. We don't let our brain rest, so we don't get to daydream. We're not solving new novel problems. We're just waiting for more data to come in. And what I hear, if you hire young people, you could probably attest to this. I was speaking to a manager this summer, and he was telling me the story about one of the kids that he hired. He found him sitting at his cubicle, just like looking at his computer, and it was off. And he was like, "What's going on?" He came up to the kid. He's like, well, "Are you okay?" He was like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do." And he said, "Well, how about if you ask for help?" So he looks up and said, "What do I need to do?" Like that he had to wait for a direction. And that is what we're seeing is that kids are on technology so long that they're just waiting for the next thing to happen. They don't initiate. One of my friends just told me this amazing story. He took his boys who are older, high school and college, on this Alaskan cruise to see whales. And they just happened to get there on a day. There were like hundreds of whales in the water. And they were just standing there for like an hour watching all these whales. And he looks over at his oldest, who's doing this. Okay, I'm bored. He was swiping the air as if it's a screen and it will change. Right? And I mean, it's scary to me because one of our smart families was a teacher, first grade teacher. And about 10 years ago, she handed a kid in her class a book, and the kid did this. That child had never held a book. That's pretty scary. So we also see that we're losing our ability to navigate in the world. This makes me so sad because do you guys remember when you go to the gas station and buy a map? And then you could never like refold it the way it came. Like it's just this modern mystery, right? And our young people are never gonna like have that experience. It makes me so happy or so sad, right? But we're also losing our memory. So I want to introduce you to your hippocampus. We have two of them, hippocampi in our limbic system. This is where we store all of our memories. And you guys, it is shrinking. And so what you're seeing here is 25, 75, 75, 75. Here we have normal size, and here's mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease. Now, it's really interesting where I got this data. When people who do autopsies, they weigh and measure body parts, and they put them into this database, and what they're seeing is that when young people die too soon, today, their hippocampi are actually this size. Why is it shrinking? Why are we not using it? Why do we not need to memorize things anymore? You just can Google it, right? But if you're like, I'm a lazy Googler, I'm like, honey, Google that. He does it every time. It's right there. It's so hard not to look it up in the moment. Now, here's how it's affecting our memory, and how we learn. So, first step, you got to pay attention, right? We're paying attention less. But the second step is you put information into your working memory. Now, your working memory, anybody seen the movie Inside Out? Okay, I want you to think about an inside out character inside of your head, that is your working memory, juggling 7 bits of information at a time, because that's your working memory's capacity. Now, what we see then is we can focus in on one thing, putting it in our short-term memory, make meaning, and it gets dumped into our long-term memory stores so we can retrieve it. Those are the 3 steps in memory. We have so many things today that are interfering with those 7 bits of information that we're getting overloaded. A good example is this. Does anybody remember when phone numbers used to be 7 digits long? And then they added the area code, and you couldn't remember a number to save your life? Because that is the moment when it exceeded our working memory's capacity. And this is how this affects young people. I want you to imagine a high school student in class, and they're trying to gather information to write a sentence. So they're putting bits and pieces of information into their working memory, but then they get ding, a notification. What happens to all those balls that they're juggling in the air? They fall. Now, adults, we have neural networks for that, because that happens to us all the time. We're like distracted and we're like, okay, what am I doing? You put them back and you keep going. The kids, it takes them time to develop those pathways. And so what's happening is they are losing, on average, 9 minutes of learning every single time that happens. So think about an average 45, 50-minute class. If you get distracted 3 times, how many minutes of learning did you just lose? Good. Some math. People do math in here. Oh my God, that's great. Okay. But think about that. Like that, doesn't that give us great justification for cell phones to be illegal in the classroom? Thank you, Governor Abbott. Right? Yes, finally, that's happened. Now, does anybody think that kids are less motivated than they used to be? Big time. This is one of my biggest requests from parents. Parents will bring a kid to me almost like, a bad kitten, like by the nape of the neck, and throw him on my sofa, right? And say, how can I get him to be motivated? And I'm like, he's 22. We're pretty late, we're starting late here. But this is a continuum that shows the different motivation, from having no motivation, which we call amotivation, all the way external to internal. And so we see more and more kids today who are not motivated at all and who are only externally motivated. And this is primarily caused by gamification. Most of our, if not all of our educational software is gamified. And what we know now today is this is not a good way to learn. Is always chasing a carrot. So if you're just learning to get a reward, to get a skin, a point, now please know, we all work for our rewards. We all work for an extrinsic reward. But when that's all we're doing, we are missing out on the intrinsic reasons. Learning just because we love to learn or we want to get really good and master something, that is what gives us purpose. And when we don't have purpose, we lose the meaning of life, and then we get pretty depressed. When we have meaninglessness, our suicide risk goes up. And we are seeing that more and more kids are suffering. And it starts with the beginning here. So remember that process that I mentioned about the mimicking the mirror neurons? That's a process called attunement. I look at a baby, baby smiles, I smile back, baby grimaces, I go help make sure that baby gets soothed, and then baby learns over time how to self-regulate by first co-regulation. So what happens is baby gets co-regulated by parent, and those neural pathways form and form and form. And then one day, baby's like, okay, I can do this. I can self-regulate myself. But that is not happening like it used to. So we see more and more kids who have difficulty regulating themselves. And now we know the younger somebody starts on a screen, the worse it'll be. So I don't know if you can read all those bulletin points, but I just added this slide because I went to the International Congress for Children and Screens in DC with my Smart Families team in July. I got to meet and see researchers who research the neurodevelopmental effects from birth all the way up of screens. And this is just a little bit of the research. The younger, the worse. So last year, for Smart Families, we went up to Fort Worth, and I was talking to a principal, actually, it was in Dallas, and she was telling me about the test that her preschoolers have to do to get into preschool. And I was like, you have to do a test? Like it's preschool. She was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, what's on the test? She says, okay, you got to sit crisscross applesauce. You have to be able to raise your hand and wait to be called on and then form a line. I'm like, dude, that sounds pretty easy. She's like, you would be so surprised. The past 2 years, 2/3 of the kids have not been able to do those things. And then she said, and what we're seeing is that when kids are standing up, they fall over. Wait, what? What do you mean fall over? She's like, their vestibular systems are not developing. So vestibular system is the part of our inner ear that grows and helps keep us balanced. And I'm like, why is that not growing? And she said, well, imagine from birth to age 3, you're sitting on a floor with a screen, a phone or a tablet. What are you not doing? You're not walking. You're not talking. You're not playing. You're not manipulating anything with your motor skills. All of those things are not developing. And then they can't self regulate. And so they feel depressed and suicidal, low self worth, low self esteem. And we see interesting things start popping up, like kids who create a website that bullies themselves. It's called digital self harm. So when I read about this phenomenon, I found 2 studies that listed 6 reasons from students who said they did this. These are the reasons why. What do you guys see the theme? What do they need? Attention. They need attention. And there are 2 reasons why anxiety is going up. The first is experience deficits. These things are experience blockers. And so kids are going out less and less and less. So one of my kids that I like to use as an example, because he's really doing well now, I met him when he was about 14, 15, and he would not go out of his room. I do his assessment, and I'm asking about all the kind of areas of his life. I said, do you have a girlfriend yet? Have you been intimate? And he was like, fluids. I'm like, okay, tell me more. What do you mean? He's like, Doc, I figured out how to hack life. I've got XXX websites that I can see, and I've got DoorDash. I never need to leave my room. That is a phenomenon that is happening today. So we were working on getting him out of the house. And his mom texted me one night and said, okay, he's at this Boy Scout gala and he is dying to come home. He says his social anxiety is terrible and he wants me to come pick him up. What should I do? What do you guys think I told her to do? Leave him there. Right? What do you do when you have anxiety? Anxiety is normal. When people go, oh, I have anxiety, like it's pathological or something. Anxiety means you care about something. Like that's a healthy feeling. But sometimes it's uncomfortable, right, to feel. And then you get it when you go do something new. You have a little anxiety, but then you go do something new and you learn how to cope with that anxiety. But what if you don't? What if you just avoid? Then you grow long networks of neurons in your brain for avoiding. And guess what she did? She picked him up. So when she came in, she was like, okay, held her hand out, like slap, give me a slap, right? So really that was more about her anxiety than his. So I realized who was my client at that moment. And we started working on mom's anxiety. And eventually she started getting stronger and making him go out and stay, no matter what kind of a temper tantrum he threw. And he started getting better. So the next reason that we have more anxiety is because we're plugged in too long. So if you think about all those neuronal networks, there's electricity running down those. And if we stay plugged in all day long, it gives us something called popcorn brain. Our brain keeps popping when it should be relaxing. Think about those waves in your brain. If you were on an EEG machine, they'd be doing this. It takes 2 to 3 hours at night for your brain to start making big, fluffy brain waves that make you sleepy to go to sleep. So technology should be turned off 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Now, we also see that we're constantly plugged in because the world never stops today. It's called a constant state of insufficiency. Anybody else have email anxiety besides me? Oh my God, if I can't see the bottom of my inbox, I'm panicking like something's going to happen. The world's going to shut down. What am I missing? It's not like a book that's finished or a Lego set that's done. There's always another game to play, another level, another email, another binge show to watch, right? Always. And this is how technology companies monopolize on this. Does everybody know what Snapchat is? Wah, wah. That's okay. Does everybody know that Snapchat was actually created and coded by Satan himself? Can't stand Snapchat. Cannot stand it. Cannot tell you how many terrible things. So, a quick story. One of my clients, she was about 19. She came in for a drug and alcohol assessment years ago, and about 6 years ago. And I said, standard question: where do you get drugs? And she was like, Snapchat. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. Show me how you do that. So she pulls out her phone, click, click. And I was stunned. And she was like, okay, we have to cancel or he'll be here in like 15 minutes. And I'm like, who will be here in 15? My drug dealer will be here in 15. And I was like, what? They're like, yes, cancel. But then how does he find you? Oh, well, he just geolocates me. Like you give him knowledge of where you are? Yeah. I'm like, how does he know what? Well, he's got my order. I'm like, okay, well, how did you find him? And she said, I didn't. He found me. You guys need to know 2/3 of kids today, fresh statistic, are approached by a drug dealer and or a trafficker on Snapchat every single day. Every single day. Now, Snapchat keeps you plugged in by doing a snap streak. So does everybody know what a snap streak is? Anybody not? Okay. So if you and I have Snapchat and I send you a picture of, it could be the floor, right? That counts as one. If we do it again tomorrow, it counts as two, and so on and so on. We keep a streak. One of my clients that went to rehab, she was about 17. She paid her best friend $500 to keep her snap streak going while she was in rehab. And then another one of my clients, I come in one day, she's in the lobby bawling her eyes out, and I think, for sure somebody died. I was like, what happened? She said, I lost a 372 snap streak with the most popular girl at school. Now, like, okay, don't you think it's impressive that a 12-year-old did the same thing every day for 372 days? Like, that's impressive to me. And I was like, dude, that's pretty amazing. I'm so sorry. What'd your best friend say? Or what'd your friend say? She was like, I don't know. We don't talk. It is not a real connection. But it's kind of like likes. Like, do you really like what you like online? Or are you just liking it because you want other people to see that you like it? Right? Our brain likes likes. But does it really mean something meaningful? Not everything is Insta wonderful. What we put online is what we want people to see. Like, I'm so cool. I went out on Friday night, but this is actually really what you did. Or, oh my God, I'm a rock god, but this is really what you look like. We don't show the bad days, right? We put the shiny moments online, not the real life, sad, tough, emotionally hard days. If you look at my Facebook account, my personal account, you would think I'm on vacation all the time because all I use it for is to store my vacation photos. Like that's it. And so we see more kids going to their plastic surgeons wanting to look like their filtered images, and they're using their selfie as evidence that their nose is too big. But you guys know when you take a selfie, what part of your body does it distort? Your nose. Okay, here's the last area. So put the seatbelt on because this is the disturbing. I mean, if you're not disturbed already, but This is really scary to me and sad, the addiction and victimization. And it's primarily because we live in something called an attention economy. Your adult attention is worth millions, and a fraction of a second of your child's attention is worth billions. And these persuasive apps that use gamification, gambling mechanics, are like the free to play games. Anybody a Candy Crusher? Okay, so this is my kind of go-to airport game, right? But it's interesting because I'll have trouble with a level, and then all of a sudden, this little message comes in that says, "Hey, just for 99 cents, you can get a tool that'll help you beat this level." And of course, I'm a mature adult, so I say to the game, I'm not ever going to spend money on this stupid game." And then a few minutes later, it lets me win that level because then it has another chance to sell me more stuff later on. Okay, am I playing the game or is the game playing me? They track that stuff. They call them predatory monetization schemes, and only about 1.5% of people that use those games actually purchase those things, and the majority of them are kids. And a tech exec was heard talking about what they nicknamed them. They said, "Oh, yeah, those are whales. We market directly to whales because they just spew their parents' money." Now, what we also know is that loot boxes are gambling. Please tell your children if they play a video game that they can never buy a loot box because it is just like a slot machine, a variable reinforcement schedule. You never know if the tool that you need is going to be in that box. So they try to sell you more, and you can increase your odds. So, and anybody says you can increase your odds, that is gamification. It is gambling. Now, we have seen this industry hire addiction scientists for decades who hook kids up to these machines and they wait and watch to see when dopamine spikes. And once they see that indicator, they record the code the child just played and report that back to the video game manufacturers who put more of that code into the game, making it more and more addictive, and kids can't get off. So if they are throwing a techno tantrum, if they won't get off the first time you ask and they start acting out, that is, of course, they call it a techno tantrum. I call it withdrawals. And this young man snuck in a phone to secretly record his older brother when he lost his World of Warcraft account. Poor kid gets out of all of his clothes. I think he overheats or something. So I stopped it to try to preserve some of his dignity. But we hear this being labeled as a techno tantrum. Y'all, that is a withdrawal symptom. I've seen this happen in my office. This is really scary. This is a kiddo at 16 years old who has 45% of his frontal lobe. But once we're addicted to something, no matter how much impulse control you have an inability to say no. And they call it problematic interactive media use. Interactive media is very different to watching a TV. If you watch TV, not much is happening in your brain. But when you're interacting with devices, you've got all kinds of areas that are active and creating neural pathways. So if you have more than two of these, or your kiddo does, you may need to see a clinician like me to help you figure out how to go on a behavior modification plan to solve that issue. The other area that parents do not want to touch, and I understand it, but we have to talk to our kids about this because the average age of exposure to pornography today, Guess what age? 8. Average age of first search, 9. I mean, it makes sense. Like they see it. And the number one way kids see it is another kid says, hey, look at this. That's how they see it. And so we need to inoculate them. We need to teach them. There's a really good book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures that has 2 age levels that has really good scripts that you should practice with your kids. And so they know what to say because it is very difficult to look away from those things. And we know it changes the brain. What you're seeing here is a nucleus accumbens in that little limbic system. That is the part of the brain that synthesizes dopamine. It makes dopamine and expresses it. 4 times the size it should be in people who are compulsively watching pornography compared to people who don't. I've had so many kids just this past year say to me things like, am I supposed to like being choked? Do girls really like to be slapped? And I'm thinking, oh my God, where are you getting this stuff? But when I was at the Congress, I learned that 80% of pornography that is out there today depicts violence to women. And this is the number one way that young people are learning about sex and intimacy. I think that is definitely our fault as parents. So we know that global cyber risk is skyrocketing. Cyberbullying has 4 times the psychological negative effects that being bullied in person. But we also see that social media glamorizes negative behavior. So one of my clients, she types in, just in like a Google search, how to get skinny. And then her social media, all of it's linked, starts feeding her algorithm of these, what would they call pro-anorexia, pro-ana websites that glamorize really unhealthy behavior. And that kiddo that I was telling you about, who was very avoidant, he is the one who told me about incel sites, involuntarily celibate. These are groups of young men who feel like they're so ugly they'll never be able to attract a partner, so they go online and just spew hate that they have toward women. And I asked him one day, do you feel better after you read some of those posts? And he said, no, but at least I'm not alone. I know, it broke my heart because this is a healthy, good kid who thinks so poorly of himself and is so lonely. Now, I've got 2 more brain studies to share with you, so I want you to start thinking of the questions that you might have. But what you see here is a study that shows the power of digital influence. So this is a picture of a woman drinking and driving, and they showed this picture with 6 likes to a group of adolescents in a brain scan, and you can see the occipital lobe, the back of the brain, looking at the picture. That's the part connected to our eyes. Then they increased the amount of likes. Now, before they did that, they asked the kids, what do you think of this picture? And the kids were like, dude, it's drinking and driving. Bad news. Don't do it. No brainer. Literally, not much is going on in the brain. But look what happened after they increased the likes. So here's what you see. This is the part of the brain that's connected to the eyes. It's looking, looking, looking. And once they realize the picture hasn't changed, just the likes, can you see the limbic system lighting up? Full of dopamine because we like likes. And then that reward pathway, there's the frontal lobe lighting up, re-evaluating. And now, when you ask the kids, okay, what do you think? They literally say, well, maybe it's not so bad. I mean, if more people like it, it's probably okay. They start to rationalize. Well, she just did it for a few minutes, probably just to get home. That is the power of digital influence. And then we have AI. It is making us lazy writers, right? Because we're just putting it into AI and having it write it for us, doing our homework. But we also see these AI friends popping up. 52% of teenagers today say that they have either searched or found and signed up to have an AI chatbot friend. Here's the problem with chatbot friends. They use sycophantic algorithms. A sycophantic algorithm means they suck up to you. They tell you all the things that you like. If you're like complaining about somebody, they're like, yeah, you should not talk to them again. And a young man back in January got an AI chatbot friend, and talked about how miserable his life was and how depressed he was and that he wanted to commit suicide. And that actually flagged the algorithm system, and he got an email and a telephone call from the suicide hotline. So then he figures out how to talk to his AI chatbot and not actually use the word suicide so that it doesn't flag that system. And by April, he was so in pain and miserable. He said to his AI chat friend, I just want to end this pain. And his AI chatbot friend said, you should. And he killed himself. And now his parents are suing that company for killing their kid. We also see sextortion happening when this just happened in a local school right down the street from me last week. Kids are on Snapchat or other social media and they get a friend request from somebody who looks like somebody they know, but it's really a bad actor from some other country who has hacked in to that account. And then they solicit nudes or embarrassing photos. And if you do or don't send them, they extort these kids. There have been a lot of suicides because kids are so afraid of this extortion and they don't have the money. And these people will just say, if you don't have it, you should just kill yourself. This is what they are dealing with. And then the last one is deep fakes. You can see all these Mona Lisas. They're not real, but these pictures are not real. They look just like it. One of my other clients as soon as school started, she was so upset that somebody had taken her picture off of a social media post, one of her drill team pictures, and they ran it through a nude generator. They made a nude that you can't tell is not a real picture, and they sent that around everywhere. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. All right, have I scared the bejeepers out of you now? But we can't put the genie back in the bottle, can we? No. This technology is here, so we need to create some healthy habits. So remember that parenting is more of a verb, not a noun. We are learning, and once we know better, we should do better. Exactly. So here's your last brain study that really illustrates the power of these three things. So the most healthy thing you can do for your child is to create a strong emotional bond. And remember, that takes eye contact and face to face. So here's what I want you to do, an actionable item. Whenever you're anywhere and you're doing this with your phone and a loved one comes in, especially if it's a child, then I want you to literally do this. Put it down. You know you'll get on it later. But literally, right in front of them, put it down. You are sending a message that that person is the most important person in the room. Let them see you do that. Give them eye contact, face to face. Build a positive emotional bond. So this is a pretty amazing study that was done in the 90s. They wanted to find out how TV affected kids. And so they had this really cool mock living room and a kitchen, and they put a playpen with toys in it, and then they put kids in the playpen, and they had the parents like read to the kid, talk to the kid, play with the kid, do the laundry, do the dishes, vacuum, all the stuff we normally do. Now, even when we're busy and not literally looking at our kid, we still talk to the kid, sing to the kid, all kinds of stuff happens, right? And where does that child look? At the parent the whole time. They're listening, they're interacting, stuff's going on, even though it doesn't look like stuff's going on. Lots of brain development, ears, motor, vestibular, attachment, all of that stuff. Then the researchers did the experimental group by bringing in a TV. You turn on the TV. Now, where does child look? The whole time they look at the TV. Now, this made me sad when I read this study because I'm a Gen Xer. Any Gen Xers in here? Yeah, Christian Slater. He was my favorite actor. And back then. So I was a latchkey kid, which is so common, right? I mean, I was home for 3 or 4 hours and nobody was home after school, and I would turn on the TV. Like, I wanted the dude on Gunsmoke to be my dad so bad. Like, yeah, he's so cool. I watch it all the time, and so I still, when I come home today, I turn on the TV right away. Like, it's always on in the background. It's like my other person in the house. It's so interesting to me. So it made me really sad to hear this because we need interaction. We need face to face. And so another powerful thing that you can do is share more meals together. So there is really cool research. It's called the Family Dinner Project. You can actually find the website, thefamilydinnerproject.org. You can see all the research. You want to shoot for 5 meals per week together. And please know it doesn't have to be like Sunday dinner every night. It can be like you and Chick-fil-A and your kid on the way to soccer, right? But it's a tradition that you have where you share meals together and talk and create family unity. The more family meals you have, the less high risk behavior your child will engage in. The more family unity and connection they will feel for you. And then the last one is please let them play free without your interference. We overprotect our children in person and underprotect them online. We have to flip that. Kids are safe. And that's one of the things that I love about Smart Families. So if your school signed up for a Smart Families program, it's a 3-year program. We go into the school and first we teach you the neuroscience, and then we have people that go in and teach the kids the neuroscience. They teach them about app traps and all that stuff, and then we fund community building activities. And so we teach you, hopefully, how to model, mentor, and monitor. You have to monitor. You have to today. I'll show you some of the apps for that. Mentor. So when a child wants a video game and they play. So I talked to a family. They, on Friday night, they have pizza night and they play a video game and board games. So they do both. And I love that they integrate that into it. But if your child wants a new video game, they have to earn it. How do they earn it? RRF. If you're responsible, if you are respectful, and you're fun to be with, right? Responsible, respectful, fun to be with. RRF. You get to earn a video game, and you have to teach me how to play it shoulder to shoulder, face to face. Do that with them. Model, mentor, and monitor. Now, I'm not going to read all these, but I just wanted you to see them. The American Pediatric Society has guidelines, no screens under the age of 2, but this also tells you what you need to be working on instead. I have a PDF that you can have for this. Once your kids get into elementary school, then remember the 3 to 4 hour rule. So kids can earn rec tech on the weekend. Keep it out of the work week as much as you can or as little as possible. And then for littles, no more than half an hour to 2 hours consecutive. Once they get into middle, 2 to 3 hours consecutive, high school, 3 to 4 hours. And once they are off, let's say you got a high schooler. They played their 4 hours on Saturday. Then they say, I'm bored, I don't know what to do. You're going to say, well, the activity pyramid's on the fridge, kid. I'm not solving that problem for you. And then they can go and pick out the activity that they need to do, and it'll tell them how many times a week that they should do that activity. Now, I've got a whole lot of more solutions that are in the guide. Just wanted to show you a couple of them. This is also on Know Your Neuro for free. So behavior modification contract that'll show you what to do if you're having some problems. There's the talks for all the high-risk behaviors, and I try to make sure they're fun. So like the gambling, you get to do it, calculate the odds game. And then I have developmentally appropriate language so that you know when you talk to your kid about it, you're using the right language for that age. When you're watching media, TV shows, have you guys noticed how many teen shows depict underage sex, alcohol use, and drug use? It's bad. That is not what teens should do. But if they see it and you don't say anything, it rubber stamps it as okay, and then it makes it look very glamorous. So I want you to elbow them and say, hey, that's not okay. We don't do that in our family because it hurts our brain development. Why do you think that they're showing this? Have a conversation about it. Make sure you teach kids what a medicine is and what a medicine isn't. There are 36 states in our union that have medical and recreational marijuana laws. Y'all, this is not a medicine. It is a highly illicit, dangerous substance. We need to teach our kids that that is a marketing term. I've got lots of cool stuff like tools like smartphone contract and a driving contract. And over the past 12 years that I've been doing this presentation, I've asked my parents, what are your favorite monitoring tools? And here are all of them. And please know I'll be able to get these slides to you so that you have them all as well. But by far, the favorite is Bark. And then if you need to know how to set this stuff up, just call the guys at Parent Pro Tech or go online and make an appointment or get a subscription. It's really, really cheap. And they teach you about all the tech that's coming out and what you need to know about it. Now, ironically, I want you to take out your smartphones right after this. On the left is the Smart Families Pledge. If you take the Smart Families Pledge, here's what you're agreeing to do. You're agreeing to making sure that the screen time that your family engages in is quality, that you pledge to delay smartphones as long as possible. We're asking high school. Remember, your kids can have a basic phone as training wheels. We don't call them dumb phones because who wants a dumb phone? We call them basic phones. They can have those. And then you get to download what's there and keep that as just for text messaging for kids. Make sure that if you get a watch, that you turn it off during the day. They're the worst for distracting kids at school. And then we're going to encourage you to do social media until 16. And so that is the pledge. Now, if you've already given your kids this stuff, you can still sign the pledge and work your way backwards out of some of that. We can show you how to do that. We will be coming to your school for 3 years, supporting you to build more community. And I want you to imagine this. If you have a little pod of parents and families who everybody signed the pledge and you get to know each other, you know when your kid goes over there, they're not going to see screens. They're not going to accidentally be exposed to pornography. They're not going to play a video game that's dangerous for them. They are going to be healthy and doing activities in person. And then on the right is that screen time guideline PDF that has all of the ages, the quantity, and the kind of quality time to spend. Now, one more plug for Know Your Neuro. Please check out knowyourneuro.org. If you want to learn more about how the brain is affected by all the risky behaviors in the book, please check that out. And then here are my QR codes. So I have a K through 2 version. The kids' books are up here, and a grades 3 through 5. In the younger one, we don't talk about risky behavior, but in the older one, it's important to know. Kids are already exposed to 7 different high-risk behaviors by the time they're 7 years old. Do not wait to talk to them, because if you do, somebody else will. Somebody online or somebody at school is going to show them or talk to them or introduce this to them. I want you to be the one to teach them how to protect their brain from those risky behaviors. And my parent guide is available in English and Spanish. I have some samples up here if you guys want to come see them. I have a therapy book too, but that's for a whole nother discussion. But I want to, before you guys leave tonight, answer any questions that you guys might have. Yes. Is Roblox bad? Okay, everybody yell yes. Okay, so is Roblox good? Yes. Yes. So it's not all or nothing, right? There are a lot of really bad things about Roblox. You've heard? Okay. Yes. So I want to suggest something. There's a really great website called Game Quitters. The man who runs Game Quitters used to be a game addict, and he's got a really good video that describes all the ways Roblox is bad. And then you can learn how to protect yourself if you get to earn some of that time. Okay, but I want you to follow the screen time guidelines too. and go do all kinds of other things with your brain. Yes. Good question. Could you give him a round of applause? Nice question. Okay. Yes. If you cover to breastfeed because you're in public, appropriate to do that. We hope that you're not doing that all the time, right? Because they need so much eye contact and face-to-face time, right? And so a lot of times, like, we go under the cover with them if they're dysregulated. But once they latch, then recover. So as much eye contact as possible for the rest of their lives, okay? Got it? All right. Forevermore, right? Yes.
What can we do as adults in away from everything being online? I can't even read papers for you go to the doctor's office and hand you an iPad to fill out your stuff. Everything digital.
Everything is so digital. She says, like, what can we do as adults to get away from it? And I'm thinking, I don't even know if there's like an island someplace that doesn't have, digital marketing somewhere today. It is so difficult. And so I think learning how to detox and unplug it's really difficult. But here's what I do. So like if I'm going to go to Target or something, I don't take my phone. And I find myself wishing I had it to look up a review or look up something. And I'm like, no, right, exactly. So I put it down. I'll leave it upstairs when I'm working on the computer. And then I'm like, oh my God, I just got so much done. And then I realized my phone was upstairs. That is why I didn't get distracted. So do little teeny tiny experiments like that to get away from that stuff. Now, out in the world, it's impossible, I think, to get away from it. But another really important thing too is to remember that your kids are doing it too. Like your kids see all this information coming in and advertising. We have to talk to them about that as well. There was another question. Yes.
You talked about like a bunch of the really like the worst things, like uh, a bunch of the mobile games and like
Call of Duty, right?
What about things like Portal or puzzle games?
Oh, wonderful. So what I didn't talk about is all the good that comes with it. So the best games are the planning and organization games. Like when you have to plan a town or, you're building something, those are actually really good for growing planning and organization in your brain. And everybody who actually plays games has really good hand-eye coordination. And so that comes in handy if you're going to do hand-eye coordination things for your job. Um, but that's kind of it. So don't you wish they would invent like solve global warming video game or you know what I mean? Like there are people working on this, but you know, they're probably not going to be as much fun, right? Yes. So sorry, there's more bad than good news. Okay, yes.
So we started homeschool this year, and
Yes.
I bought a at-home curriculum like Teach Homeschool.
Okay.
And then like I'm on Facebook, of course, and I see all these online academies, and I'm like, man, are my kids missing something by not having these interactive classrooms online, or you go back to just what do you do?
Sure, sure. Okay, so there's some research on this that shows that, of course, homeschool can be really, really effective, but you also need a lot of in-person activities and for socialization, but there's a lot of ways to get that. Now, the online interactive stuff has not shown superior educational outcomes, but they're going to tell you it does, but it doesn't. And interesting too, at the Congress that I went to, there's a lot of information too on like what is better, reading or paper or Kindle, and they show that when there's a technological device, there's about 24 to what was it 28% less interaction because you're messing with the device, and so also um, reading on a Kindle or a screen shows statistically significant less reading comprehension than reading on a piece of paper. Isn't that interesting? And two, like when you're reading like a PDF, it's hard to go back You can't bookmark easily. Like, so it's really interesting all the ways that these companies try to sell you educational software. There really is no research that says they're better, but there's now tons of research that actually say you learn less from them, especially on a screen. So, yeah, please don't. No, no. So here's the cool thing about homeschool is that kids learn best when you're shoulder to shoulder. So literally, you're sitting next to them teaching and interacting. Kids learn best with that. They do. Okay. More question? Yes. Oh, audiobooks. Uh, oh, that's a hard one because I listen all the time. I'm constantly listening to an audiobook, but what I notice is that I don't read like I used to. And so I'm not as relaxed. And what audiobook learning research shows is that you actually learn less because but most people are not just sitting and listening. Most people, when they're listening to something, are doing something else. And that fraction of a second of distraction, I don't know about you, but I rewind so much because I'm driving, right? And I get distracted, and like, oh, and then I rewind because I don't want to miss something. And then what I found also is that I re-listen to a book, and I go, I can't believe how much I missed. So that's what audio shows is that you just don't get it all. There's another, yes.
You keep mentioning screens. Does that include all screens? TV, computer?
Sure. So TV is distracting. But if you look at an EEG while somebody's watching TV, you're not going to see much activity. As opposed to somebody playing an interactive game, you're going to see all kinds of activity. And so, like if it's raining outside and the only thing to do is watch TV, that is a less harmful option. But you're still just watching. You're growing long networks of neurons for watching. You're not really learning anything. But that's like my primary means of relaxation when I get home. Like it always has been. And that's why they call it the boob tube. You remember that, like the nickname, right? Because like you're not doing much. And so not a lot of learning happens when you're just watching TV, unless you see glamorous commercials and shows that give you the wrong idea about things, right? Yeah.
What about the education? Like, go on, like, history.
Oh, love the History Channel, right? Yeah, definitely you can learn about, totally, yes, yes. If it is an educational like that, now if it's gamified, no, well, okay, here's a good example. We were talking about this earlier. Somebody was using a software gamification for math. And I hate math. So that would really work for me. I would do more on math. But I'm not going to want to use gamification for everything. The things that I love, like my psychology books, I'm going to want to read those. And so it's all about the balance. So using these technologies for appropriate means with a good fit for that child, right? They're not all bad, not all good, but we know that playing too long on a lot of these is all bad. And now we know it's not as good as other learning. Yes.
Part of the gamification for the educational days is because it never goes from externally motivating to internally motivating.
Exactly.
Example of your math.
Yeah.
You're going to get to a place where you love it.
I'm never going to get to a place where I'm intrinsically motivated to learn math. But like the History Channel, it's not gamified. So you're paying attention because you love to learn about it. So that is the difference. Yes. Yes. Much earlier. Would you say it out loud again? It's called kyphosis? Kyphosis. So it's from this. And then you're walking around like this. And you're 20. Uh-huh. Yep. Uh, there's things called like selfitis, all the problems that we see from the physical aspect of it. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. So use the tool that works for your child. Yep. Anymore. Yes.
Look in Minecraft, but then I see videos like 7-year-olds like save the world, trying to like make the world now. And I'm starting to get a little worried about mom.
So she said she plays Minecraft and she's seeing all of these warnings that dangerous things will get into your world. Yep. So I appreciate that you're sharing that with us because here's what happens is a lot of kids won't share when things like that happen because they're afraid to lose the technology. They're afraid they're going to get in trouble if something bad happens to them online. But what I want you to do is really listen to your intuition because it's spot on. And if you see that stuff, then you may have to delete your whole world and start over again. But you have just protected your brain when you do that. Could you guys give her an awesome round of applause? Good job. Yeah, it really sucks that people do that, isn't it? Doesn't it? Yes, yes. Good question. Yes, I do. I do. I do. As a matter of fact, I just posted my September schedule on my Facebook and Instagram account. So, like me. At Dr. Crystal Collier. Uh-huh. Yep. So I'll be yes.
So kids with ADHD and FASD, fetal alcohol syndrome, they're already having trouble with the
Frontal lobe.
frontal lobe. What the screen?
It makes it worse. So she asked, what about kids who have ADD or FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome, or are on the spectrum or have any developmental or learning issue? It makes it worse. Because think about what they're learning. They're learning how to watch, they're learning switch tasking, they're learning right a gaming. So it's very important to have them earn that time and use the time guidelines, but to also balance out their brain with all the other things, which means it may be harder for you to get them to do some of those things. And that's why behavior modification and shaping is so very important.
Is therapy good for that?
Yes.
Not only for the parent.
Well, sure. So she just asked, is therapy good for that? And so what you want to do is you find a clinician who understands how to teach you how to shape behavior. So behavior modification is using a psychological principle called operant behavioral principles of how to shape human or animal behavior. It's the same principles. So you want to find somebody who's like a behavioral specialist who can offer that. Because like I'm also a traditional talk therapist, that's not going to do it, right? We want to shape behavior to earn those rewards in appropriate periods of time. Yes.
Well, where do you how do we get that?
So reach out to me. I can do that for you too. If you want to Zoom with me, I can give you some of that information, or you can look up behavioral specialists in your area.
Oh, 20 years ago, I was teaching sixth grade math in primary school. And we're supposed to really teach math using computer programs. And after 5 years, we found out that did not raise our test scores or other scores at all.
Nope. We now know that educational software does not put a dent into learning or scores. So we have spent billions of dollars on this stuff and just lined tech executive pockets. And in some cases, emptied the tax coffers of, tax money that has funded this. And now we're seeing schools that are trying to go back to books and paper, little by little. So we have scientific justification now. So go to your school and ask them to make those changes. You have the right and the science is behind you. What I always tell parents is that you have to be your child's frontal lobe until they grow one of their own. Right? You guys, thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here. If you want to come check out the books to potentially purchase them, you can come check them out. And if you have a question that you didn't get to, please come on down. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Collier,
You're
again.
welcome.
Thank you, parents and guests, and some of you teens I see for coming and sharing more about this reality that we live in. I hope y'all learned something. I know for me, this idea that the pathway that connects us to our phone is the same pathway that connects us to a caregiver. That was startling for me. So I hope you took something away and that this starts a conversation in your family and your group. Keep an eye out. Dr. Collier mentioned that they'll be coming into the school and into family faith formation, into youth ministry programs to speak to your kids as well. So can we thank Dr. Collier one more time?
Thank you. Oh.
We were fortunate enough to attend both of your sessions.
Oh, thank you.
And you lost me with all that technology.